You're someone who once said you thought that there was no one more deserving of the Nobel Peace Prize than President Trump. Obviously, he's long sought one. Do you think that there's any way he could still get one, given this war?
Hey, welcome back to the channel. Genuinely glad you're here for this one because this might be one of the most unexpected conversations I've seen in a long time. So here's what's happening in this video. Kaitlan Collins sits down with Marjorie Taylor Greene, someone who has been one of the most vocal and committed supporters of this administration, and what unfolds is not what anyone expected. Marjorie starts raising serious questions about the war in Iran, the cost of it, the lives lost, and whether any of it was ever explained honestly to the American people. This is not an outsider criticizing from a distance. This is someone from the inside of that movement speaking out loud. Stick around until the very end because the final moment of this clip genuinely stopped me in my tracks, and I think it will do the same to you. Before we get into it, drop a comment and let me know where in the world you're watching from right now. I love seeing where this community comes from. It always surprises me. All right, let's get into it.
There's so much to talk about tonight with all the developments in Iran. I think first, though, on the 13 service members that have now been killed during Operation Epic Fury, I wonder what goes through your mind when you think of those lives that have been lost already.
Oh, it's absolutely heartbreaking, Kaitlan. I'm a strong supporter of our military and the great men and women who serve. I think they're some of the greatest among us, and their families who are so concerned about them right now. These are 13 lives that I believe should not have been lost. This war is not something that Americans voted for in 2024. As a matter of fact, we voted for the opposite. We voted for no more foreign wars, no more regime change. And we were told by many members in the administration throughout the campaign, J.D. Vance, Tulsi Gabbard, and others, that they believed that going to war with Iran would be a terrible idea. It was something that Charlie Kirk himself had said over and over again. And Donald Trump, President Trump, I voted for him 3 times, fought for him to become president, and I still want him to be successful. But he told Americans for over 10 years and even longer that he thought foreign wars and regime change was really a bad direction for America to go in. And we trusted and believed him that we wouldn't be doing this. But, this was an unprovoked war, and Israel pulled us into it, pulled America into it. And so those are 13 lives that should not have been lost.
Yeah, and of course, when the president was asked about that, he argued that maybe he forced Israel's hand in this matter. But I mean, now here we are 13 days in. He's planning on sending more troops to the region, we're told. It's not clear exactly what they'll do while they're there, a Marine group. Is that something you support?
Absolutely not. As a matter of fact, I, like many millions and millions of Americans, are outraged by this. He never came to America and addressed the nation and gave clear reasons why we would go to war with Iran, especially after he told us back in the summer that he had completely obliterated all of their nuclear capabilities and had even chastised any news organization or media that said otherwise. But here we are in a war with Iran, and it doesn't make any sense. And I'll go further with this. Why are we sending thousands of more U.S. military troops? Why are we sending more of our military resources? Why are we pulling military resources away from other sectors of the world where it's much needed and putting it all there to fight Iran and to have this war in the Middle East? And the reality is, there are so many innocent people dying. I mean, the little girl's school is such an outrage. It's horrific. And Americans, we don't want to think of our military as being responsible of killing little children. This is absolutely something that Americans should not tolerate. And we are owed answers. They keep saying that they're investigating, but it is such a serious situation. I drove by an elementary school today, and there were children out on the playground, swinging on the swings and playing on the playground. And I thought to myself, I'm so thankful that our children are safe, but I can't imagine living somewhere where school children or people's children have been bombed or killed. And this is something that has so many people outraged, because I'll go back, Kaitlan, we did not vote for this. We voted for an end to foreign wars, and that's exactly what we should be seeing.
This is the moment that should make every single person stop scrolling, because what you just watched was not a liberal, not a Democrat, not someone from the opposing party. This was one of the most loyal supporters the administration ever had. Someone who voted 3 times, campaigned endlessly, and staked her entire political identity on this presidency, and she is sitting there on national television saying, "We were lied to." You have to understand what that actually means. This is not opposition research. This is not a hit piece from a news outlet people love to dismiss. This is someone from the inside of that movement saying out loud, "We trusted you, and you broke that trust." Marjorie Taylor Greene said this, and I want you to really hear it. She said she voted for him 3 times, fought for him to become president, and still wanted him to be successful. But he told Americans for over 10 years that foreign wars and regime change was a bad direction, and they trusted and believed him that they wouldn't be doing this. That but is everything. That but is where the whole argument lives. Because you cannot spend a decade telling your base one thing and then do the exact opposite and expect no one to notice. That is not leadership. That is a broken promise delivered at the cost of human lives. And then she goes further. She points out that back in the summer, the public was told, directly told, that Iran's nuclear capabilities had been completely obliterated. Marjorie said he had even gone after any media outlet that dared to question that claim. So the question that every single viewer watching this should be asking themselves right now is, if the threat was already eliminated, why are we at war? That is not a partisan question. That is a basic, logical, unavoidable question. Here is what blows my mind about this moment. The people who spent years calling the media fake, calling critics disloyal, shutting down every question, they are now the ones asking the questions, and they cannot get answers either. That tells you everything about how this was handled.
On the school, so you don't think that their answers so far have been sufficient on who's responsible for that, given the evidence that points to the United States?
You know, I don't want to ever think about our military doing something like that, or making that type of mistake, or however it happened. But everyone has seen the video. Everyone has seen the still shot of the Tomahawk missile. So no, I think they need to come out and talk about it. There's so many things that are so concerning about this war, and Americans have not been given enough answers. Here we are. Here's Americans at home right now. We've got families getting ready to go on spring break, and gas prices are skyrocketing. Inflation has barely stabilized, and people voted for lower grocery costs. Well, we're going to see costs at the grocery stores going up because diesel is going up and oil is going up because of this war. We've got 30% of the world's fertilizer goes through the strait. That affects our farmers that are struggling already. We voted to put Americans first. I'm a conservative. I'm the America First wing of the Republican Party. That's how I voted. That's what I fight for. That's what I want to see happen. I want to see Americans put first. And we've got the Republicans in Congress right now. They can't even fund Homeland Security. Our own Border Patrol, ICE, TSA agents, and others are not even getting paid. But yet here they are told that they're going to be voting, and they'll vote for it. Believe me, they love the war. The neocons love the war. They're going to pass a supplemental to fund the war in Iran. What is that going to be? $50 billion or more, while the war is costing us approximately $1 to $2 billion a day. But yet we're not even funding Homeland Security, and Americans are still struggling. And Kaitlan, I got to tell you, I'm still waiting on Mike Johnson to roll out that Republican health care plan that he boasted and bragged that he was going to have, because Americans can't even afford health insurance right now.
This part right here is where the hypocrisy becomes impossible to ignore. And I say that not to score political points. I say it because the facts that Marjorie herself laid out are genuinely staggering when you line them up next to each other. She is a self-described America First conservative. That is her whole identity. And she is standing there pointing out that Border Patrol agents, ICE officers, TSA workers, the very people that this movement built its entire brand around protecting and funding, are not getting paid. Let that land for a second. the people on the front lines of the border, the issue that was the centerpiece of every rally and every campaign promise, are going without paychecks. Marjorie said it directly. Republicans in Congress cannot even fund Homeland Security, their own Border Patrol, ICE. TSA agents are not even getting paid, but they will show up and vote for a war supplemental without hesitation. Now, here is the part that people need to understand historically. This is not a new pattern. Governments throughout modern history have consistently found funding for military operations faster than they fund domestic services. It happened after Korea. It happened after Vietnam. The money for the mission abroad always moves quicker than the money for the people at home. And here we are watching the same cycle repeat. Except this time, the criticism is coming from someone who was one of its loudest cheerleaders. And then she brings up something that should make every working family genuinely frustrated. Gas prices up. Grocery costs rising, diesel going up, fertilizer supply disrupted, farmers struggling. These are not abstract policy issues. These are things people feel every single week when they fill up their tank or walk through a checkout line. This is the part that matters most to me, because all of those campaign promises about putting people first, about fixing the economy, about lowering costs, they are being directly undercut by a war that was never put to a public vote. And the person saying that is not a liberal commentator. It is someone from within that movement who is watching it happen in real time.
Yeah, I think you said that this is not what the president's supporters voted for. I mean, you're someone who campaigned for him endlessly on the campaign trail. You know what those voters wanted. And when you talk about just gas prices, they're up 74 cents almost per gallon in Georgia in the last month. The administration said today they have a plan when it comes to the Strait of Hormuz, which is, basically choked off at this point, which is why those gas prices are so high. We're 13 days in. Do you think that they have a plan?
I don't know if they have a plan or not, because they've never made a clear case to the American people why they are bombing Iran. They've never made a clear case why they're supporting Israel while Israel is bombing Lebanon, and while Israel totally grazed Gaza, killing thousands and thousands of people and children. No, I don't think they've made a clear case for this at all. And the reality is, this is something that Americans are so fed up with, and we voted to end it. That's what we voted for, to end all of this. Here we are over a year into President Trump's administration, and we're in a full-scale war with Iran that doesn't seem to be ending anytime soon. So no, none of it makes sense.
You're someone who once said you thought that there was no one more deserving of the Nobel Peace Prize than President Trump. Obviously, he's long sought one. Do you think that there's any way he could still get one given this war?
At one time when he wanted to be the president of peace and he wanted to end wars and constantly talked about no more foreign wars, no ending wars, of course I thought he deserved the Nobel Peace Prize. But do I think he deserves it now? No, absolutely not.
And then we arrive at the moment that this entire clip has been building toward the Nobel Peace Prize question. Think about what it takes for someone to get to that point. You do not spend years fighting for someone, defending them publicly, attaching your entire political reputation to their success, and then say what Marjorie said, unless something has genuinely shaken you at your core. She acknowledged it. At one time, she believed it. When the message was peace, when the promise was no more foreign wars, she thought that endorsement made sense. And then Marjorie said, "But do I think he deserves it now?" No, absolutely not. 5 words. And those 5 words carry the weight of every broken promise, every family waiting for a soldier to come home, every child in a war zone, and every voter who went to the polls believing things would be different this time. Here is what I find genuinely fascinating about this from a bigger picture standpoint. Movements built on anti-war sentiment have a historical breaking point. We saw it during Vietnam when support collapsed not from the outside but from within. We saw it when soldiers and veterans began speaking out against the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. The most powerful opposition is always the one that comes from inside the tent, because it cannot be dismissed, it cannot be labeled as biased, it has to be answered, and right now, nobody is answering it. What Marjorie said in this clip is not just political commentary, it is a signal. When the most loyal voices in a movement start publicly saying the words no, absolutely not, That is worth paying attention to regardless of where you stand politically. So what do you guys think of this? Leave your thoughts down in the comments, please like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.